Alright, hello YouTube. I am back with another game review. This time we are reviewing Exxon's gameplay, where he's facing the Super Sharp and Eberdebi. And as this is a little bit of a longer game, I'll try to keep things a little bit shorter and not go so deep into analysis. Um, yeah, I just don't want to spend like an hour talking about every little micro decision. Okay, so we are great, and these are our choices. I think what we picked is kind of fine. Um, I personally would probably go for the Oathbreaker with Aqua opening, potentially with like a looter or something as well. Um, Not necessarily picking the Serpent in that case, and potentially going for like this or like this, I guess. Um, But yeah, it's not like an amazing early roll. I think it's totally fine to essentially pick this roll. What did we end up picking? We ended up doing this. Yeah, I think this is all completely fine. I personally prefer the Aqua as it gives me a little bit more push in the early game with very little weak waves. And it's just the quote unquote staple for how to play the game since 8 years. And I feel very comfortable playing Fire Elemental early on. But this has a little bit more flexibility. You can play around the Serpent in the early game very nicely. Catapult gives you a lot of power later in the game. It's fine. There's no criticism. You don't leave yourself with like an obvious weak wave or an obvious problem. Okay, so game starts. We king up on one into a Mega Mind Fiesta. Okay, I know that this guy plays a lot of Fiesta, so I tend to snail him a little bit more often than not. Given that we're 5 worker opening, it's also fine to throw in the snail here and there. But of course, I'm not blaming you because king upping on one is such a standard choice that it's very fine. Wave 2, we resent the snail because it was pre-income. Exactly correct. I'm not sure if I would put the Infiltrator really just behind the Oathbreaker. This gives you some weird aggro sometimes. I would consider putting it like 2 squares down and 2 to the right, or even just flat out in the split. But that kind of mixes your damage a little bit, so I think it's probably fine if you don't get a DT or double snail to put it like here or here even. This construction, I don't know, it has given me very weird results, especially if you get like a single tank, then sometimes the Oathbreaker only tanks a single tank and the Infiltrator runs in front and just full tanks and dies, and it's a little bit strange. So I would recommend building slightly differently. All right, wave 3. I am not sure if income kinging here is correct, as he's not really shown good answers for this wave. I would probably add the second snail, but again, it's an early game gamble. I would definitely not build Peewees here so far up. Definitely not this one, but probably also not necessarily this one, just because this makes the Oathbreaker tank very, very late. And you really want the Oathbreaker to tank a few units right from the start of the wave, especially in the early game, as you really want to abuse its power in the Unchained Rage, where it just goes mad mode. And the best way to do this is really to have a tank like the first 4 or 5 creeps on the left hand side, and then have these units, third column, second column, a little bit further back, which then take the aggro and which will also tank the split. So that's the basic Oathbreaker build idea. Like this, it probably tanks too late, I would guess. If it tanked perfectly, then just ignore what I said. Feel free to let me know, then I'm gonna copy it. But I don't think this is very consistent. Um, Right, wave 4, we just income. I think at this point we have to expect that he's Fiesta, right? And if I see this construction on wave 3 where he's leaking 56%, I'm thinking we either DT him at least, or I would probably even go for a Robo. I think this Lizard only gives him a little bit too much freedom to push. But of course, every decision against a Fiesta player is a little bit of a coin flip. And maybe you thought to yourself, no, I expect him to overbuild as he's very weak on next wave, and then he's gonna overbuild with Fiesta. So I don't blame you. It's not a bad play necessarily. I would have made a different choice though. Adding Serpent here is good. Then wave 5 hits, teammate got skipped, so we have to overbuild, else we could also try to go for an aggressive push into the Fiesta player, but teammate is being saved on, so we have to cover. And at this point, I would already make a different choice. I would not go for the second Serpent. And here's why. The second Serpent does very little for you, okay? For this wave, it's pretty bad. For this wave, you're much better off having a second Oathbreaker or another Infiltrator. For wave 6, the second Serpent is fine as a tank, but again, on wave 6, the Infiltrator is at least as good as a unit, probably is a stronger unit in fact, and even Oathbreaker is kind of fine on wave 6. And on wave 7 and wave 8, you really want to have the Deep Coiler, which perfectly two-shots the big creeps on 7 and the creeps on wave 8. So the second Serpent ends up dealing very, very little damage. It does help against the Mole, but against the Mole, even this construction with like Deep Coiler and Small Serpent is kind of meh, as they tend to focus different targets. So I would really recommend building one Serpent in the early game. We brute him here. This is a good choice because we get him. I mean, at this point we see that he pushed, so going full is good. Could have even considered double roboing as a better send, but this worked better with our income, so it's fine. Wave 6, we should probably, given that there were significant leaks, expect this resend and play a little bit more safe. Teammate is also taking a little bit of a risk here. So this is of course you want to push because you want to send on 7 for king damage. And it's very, very hard to find like the very correct amount of push. So I don't blame you. I would also put this infiltrator a little bit to the right because we're starting to build a conga line on the left, and this is always very weird with aggro. But yeah, it's a very minor thing. Teammate is also taking a very small risk. This can happen, not a huge deal. We take 20% king damage. It's fine. We get a long wave, we get good push. We're going full on wave 7. Very good. Good king damage. Now we're in a very decent spot. We decide to income again. Teammate even gets a full send here for fun, which is a very bad choice. And enemy is now quite high value, and at this point we should start really considering Legion spells. Pawn Shop, Counterattack, Venture. Given that this guy on blue can have a Haven, we can have a big gun on red. We are not super healthy king HP wise. I don't think it's a good play to try to go for a kill around wave 10, 11, 12. And also not 13 because of Venture. I mean, obviously you could start saving now and go 13, but this opens us up for like plays on wave 12. And if they venture anyway, it's kind of odd. So I would probably start saving now and try to scare them off venture into pawn shop. So I would probably skip 9 and 10 and then probably income king on 11. Just to ideal case is we scare them off of venture into pawn shop while we get one more cent so we can venture, and then we can just very easily take the game to wave 15 and win on wave 15. So that would be my game plan at this point, given that their builds are not looking amazing for wave 15, and if we save 11 into 15 while being slightly ahead, we should be winning the game on wave 15. Yeah, but you decide to go income here, you get income king, you push a little bit more, that's kinda fine. The issue is that everyone in this game can probably pick venture except for you. So this puts you, I mean, sure, you get pawn shop, which is also like some amount of gold and decent ways to play around later on. But essentially, venture gives you 200 free gold. So that's 130 more than pawn shop gives you currently, I think, I hope. And it's kind of hard to justify, quote unquote, throwing away 130 gold advantage to the enemy by just income sending a little bit too much. Okay, so we income on 10. This guy's not weak. I mean, he's taking a risk for 9, but not a huge risk with his violet. We probably would have leaked him with a full send, but he's Fiesta, so it's not worth it. Yeah. Teammate sees Haven, so now we get saved on. Teammate picks Venture anyway, which is good choice. We can't Venture as we're weak on 12 and 11, so we have to take Pawn Shop, and we decide to save into red, which I'm not sure is the correct choice. I think if we accept that he's gonna be Venture, this Mythium that we're gonna save up now is not really going to do super much for us. Because, right, looking at their builds, we expect them to be double Venture. So we don't have a concrete wave where we can kill them, right? Or like go for king damage again. Wave 13, we might be able to get red, but blue has Venture, and he will have Hellgate, Hades, tanks, Zeus, whatever. He will hold any send. So 13, we can't kill them. Going full with a lot of Mythium doesn't really help us there so much. Going 14 is kind of bad into red, as he has Venture, he has a big gun, he has Sand Badger, he has tanks. We don't expect to be able to leak him, and even though this guy isn't amazing on 14, he's also not super, super weak. And on 15, this guy isn't amazing on red, but, you know, he's not horrendous either, and this guy has Hades. And going 10 into 15 is also a very, very big commitment. It's possible in this spot to do it, but I think you much rather income king here as well, just to get your game going a little bit more, and then you try to target wave 15. On a side note, we also rerolled on wave 10, and we ended up replacing the slime larva with the buckler, which is a fine choice. One could always consider, like, quote unquote, transitioning into a Pilgrim Soulgate combination. Consider like ditching Catapult and Infiltrator, for example, or ditching the Chained Fist and potentially even the Serpent, as we have a few, and then doing something like this. But obviously, we're lacking a little bit of DPS then. Well, I mean, DPS, this guy is probably fine for DPS, but you were lacking pierce damage. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. I like having healers with Soulgate. Gives good cover potential. It has a lot of strong waves to play around, but it's also probably fine to stick with the role that we ended up sticking with, which is this one. Could also always transition into banker and try to just scale via value generating units, but I don't really like that so much. Okay, so now this wave has happened and we get a little bit of income on wave 12, and we have to sort of make a game plan again. Ideally, we already made a game plan like here, but let's just assume for a moment that we now kind of know that they both took venture, looking at their values. Teammate did use stash on this wave to venture anyway. Don't know if this is the best usage of stash. It's probably better even to take pawn shop and not venture here and keep the stash. But it is what it is. We can't control our teammate. Right. Now, let's quickly assess where are we scared. And looking at our boards, the very, very clear and very easy answer is wave 16. If they end up skipping going 11 into 16, we're dead. There's no way we can defend this. There's no way we will survive. There's no way we can do anything. So we have to prevent this. And how does one prevent this? Well, it's to make sure we have enough Mythium on wave 15 that we can threaten to kill them there. So, in my opinion, you should start saving now or continue saving. But we decide, after this income send, enemy is venture, but he sucks on 13, to split send and to go full into red. And I don't like this. Why? Well, first of all, he's venture. Second of all, he hunts a rat and still only leaks 70%, and it opens up the 15 angle against us. And this 70% leak, it probably gives us on teal like 200 gold. But I don't think this is like super worth it, to be honest. Because this really gives red a lot of push, and it gives them the freedom to go wave 16 if they want to, which they should communicate at this point. Okay, let's go and win on wave 16. So this split send really doesn't work out super well. Yeah, I'm sorry. I really don't like this choice. I don't think it helps us so much. Okay, but anyway, we built for wave 15 with the catapult, which is the only wave we can prepare for, and we skip on 14. And thankfully, somehow, the opponents feel scared or pressured enough to send here, which is full into monks, and income king into us as we're strong there. And we decide to income king into them as well, which is also the correct choice. So even though we've made like quote-unquote bad choices, the enemy hasn't really decided to punish us so super hard, luckily. And now, once again, we're at a point where we have to make a choice how we want to approach this game. And where we want to win, where enemy is weak, where enemy is strong, yada yada. Okay. So, resending is not an option. This guy's 4k value already. No bueno. 17, in theory, there's a play there, but the issue is we can't really push on 16 because we suck. Also, this guy has Ocean Templar Gate and Haven, and this guy has Gun and Mudman, so it's not really super appealing to go 17 either. And we're also not under threat on 17 because we're strong there. So, because our teammate is also super weak on 18, we will not be able to skip 18, so we have to send on 18. Okay, so at this point, we should start preparing 18, and going full on 18 also has a decent chance, as this guy is lacking tanks, and this guy just outright sucks. Okay, we prepare Royal Guards, which is good, as we're lacking tanks. And then, wave 17, we prepare a second Trebuchet, which is also good, and an Infiltrator, which is also good. And now, let's consider what should we send into red. And in my opinion, a ram is super useful. His only damages are these units. It's fine if we counter them. The Void Mantas also don't like hitting a ram so much. And I think the second send should almost always be a Shaman on wave 18, especially given that he has mana units here and a Sea Dragon here. So he will most likely pivot into healers or something. And then we send DPS with whatever we have left. And for our build, we should just go for more orchids. And we should make sure that we do an even split or a higher split on the right-hand side to be safe against Krakens. And teammates should send either just flat out DPS, like Shaman Pack Imps or something, or he should try to send double Kraken or like Kraken Ram to make sure the Hades don't attack the wave. And what's happening now is we send double Ram, triple Brute Robo. This is, in my opinion, a bad choice. This send into blue is pretty bad in my opinion, as the Kraken goes right and is never focused. The send into monks is probably also horrendous, but we don't really care. And we do not go for an even split here. And I think this is like we pawn shop our slime sirens, which is a good choice. But we definitely had to go even split here. And this send is also bad. And this is what I'm going to show in game. This is the only thing I'm going to show in game, as the other minor build things I saw somewhere also discussed in coaching. And I think this is really where the game is quote unquote decided. Okay, so let's first do our send into this guy. And as I said, I think Ram and Shaman. And yeah, I tried Pack Leader Brute. Like, Pack Leader is also super beneficial to just run over his comp. And I think this is what you want to send here. He is griefing his double gun because he doesn't know how to build. Very good, very useful. And like this, he's leaking 120%. The earlier run was even 140%. I think this is significantly better, especially since taking into consideration that it's leaking a Shaman, and Shaman will do a lot of damage on the king. All right, let's briefly sandbox the send that our teammate did. As I said, I think double Kraken. He didn't have the second Kraken pre-income, but sometimes you just have to skip income. Like, let's test what's happening here. Maybe I'm wrong and this is just horrendous, but yeah, I mean, he might just hold anyway. Or, oh yeah, lag. I don't know how much he held with in game, so it's very hard for me to check. But I don't think he would be covering a lot. Maybe they even die. Let's test what happens when you just commit to like damage. Like this, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, this guy is definitely super strong on 18, so it's kind of hard to leak him. Again, I don't think single Kraken is a good send just because of the kite ability. Maybe enemy still ended up focusing it pretty early on. We'll test the in-game send as well after this one. Yeah, it's roughly the same result, I guess. Maybe this is slightly better. I don't know. All right, he is holding. Right, so what happened in game? Kraken for a pack Hermit. I would expect that this is like holding with 2 Hades alive or something, but maybe I'm just wrong. But like this, he's always focusing the left-hand side of the wave down. I guess with the Zeus focusing the Kraken now gets focused as well. So it's not a pure DPS Kraken. But yeah, I mean, he's holding a lot better with this in-game send than the sense I suggested. So even though he wouldn't leak against the other Sens with double Kraken, or like, okay, let's assume that our teammate did not want to miss any income, so he's doing this with a pack leader. I think this is also a viable choice. But you have, in such a case, you have to understand what the threat is, and the threat is really that the Hades are murdering the wave. So you have to either protect the wave or send a lot of DPS to make sure that ultimately the Hades don't get out so many spawns. And it's also a big help for teammate in mid if like at least one Hades dies, the Thanatoses die or take damage, the Hellgate dies. Like all of these things are truly beneficial for us because we need to deal king damage here. I think this is also a hold that doesn't really matter so much, but it's a much weaker hold than what happened in game. Alright, and now let's quickly sandbox our build and showcase why even split is so much better. Let's say we do this, and the send was Kraken Centaur. What the fuck? Kraken Centaur Brute Robo. Right. I would probably, in your spot, have sold one of the veterans for more boost on the orchids, because I would really like expect my teammate to leak here, and I think I have to cover. So I would really do my very, very best to hold as good as possible here. Yeah, nice split focus catapults. Good fucking job. Yeah, now, as you can see, instead of leaking 3 creeps in game, we're leaking 1.5 creeps. And if we end up doing this and selling this guy, we're pawn shop, so we can probably full boost. This is 80 gold and 15, so I think it's realistic to say we end up with this boost. And then this was the send, and I expect us to just easily hold. Like, sure, if he double Krakens us, this even split doesn't really help us, but then he's really investing a lot in the tank value for the wave. Like this the Kraken even dies in the split and only stuns the split units, and I think we should be holding now. We are not attacking the Centaur this time. We are partially attacking the Centaur. Let's go Pennywise focus. Fucking lovely, but we are still easily holding. And I think you're obviously expecting the Cent to be here, to come here. You're preparing by selling the slime sirens for this. And I think in that case, you should really just commit. Because if they skip and they don't die, then you lose the game anyway. There's no real benefit in you spending less gold on boost. And if they go income, okay, maybe like you've wasted 80 gold because they go income. But if they go income and don't take king damage, again, the game is lost. And if they take king damage, then you're gonna race on 20 anyway. It's not really such a big deal. Okay, so let's quickly go through the rest. This was like my main point of criticism, apart from in theory allowing 16, is A, our send here, B, teammate send, and C, how we're building here. And then obviously we have to go 20, and we are going to play for the hold on 20. Teammate is even suiciding. I think this is fine given that blue is quite ahead from everyone, and has good answers for wave 20, so teammate suiciding is the correct choice. We don't push, we build slime sirens, which is the correct choice. Given that we have rerolled our Peewee, I think. Oh no, yes, we have rerolled our Peewee. I think I said we rerolled the slime lava, but we rerolled the Peewee for the buckler, I think. Right, and then wave 20 hits. We end up holding our lane, which is good. Again, I would probably potentially consider doing an even split to try to snipe the power mercs a little bit better. Like with the left-hand side, like this, there's always a chance for these units to like insta-kill the centaur and the pack. Send, again, I would prefer Shaman. I think Shaman is a must send on wave 20, but I don't think it makes a big difference here as he leaks and he will leak fast. And this guy is also leaking quite early on, and we full hold, which is really, really good. But unfortunately, we somehow end up losing this race. The bosses were probably too low, so the king like one or two shot one of them, and then we somehow end up losing, which is very unfortunate because we kind of played this well. And I think with like very, very minor changes on wave 18, we always win the game here. But again, apart from that, quickly going through, I think this construction is a little bit iffy. I think second Serpent is probably a mistake. Wave 7 is really, really good for us. I don't necessarily like how we play around the Venture. I really don't like how we send solo on 13, as this opens up 16 and gives them a free chance to win the game. They end up going 15 for fun. We income king, and at this point we are in a decent spot again. We are slightly behind, but nothing that we can't overcome. We make the correct choice to go 18. We prepare correctly for wave 18. Our send is unfortunately not ideal. We should do even split and make sure we full boost so we hold. And then we don't take any king damage here, and then we probably then we have a full king for wave 20 and enemy has a lot less gold. Teammate should also send correctly, but again, that's outside our control. We make the correct choice. The teammate suicides here. Very good. He could have considered suiciding for wave 19 already, but full pushing for wave 19 is risky because enemy can resend and I don't think we full cover. It's a consideration, but I don't hate that he's building here. I like that he's suiciding for 20, and we unfortunately end up losing a very close race. But yeah, there's not so much we can do on wave 20. All right, I hope there were some instructive things here, and I hope 30 minutes is still acceptable for one of these reviews, and I hope to see you in the next one.